everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And today I want to talk to you about the National Autistic Society Left Stranded campaign report. And it says, Left Stranded, the impact of coronavirus on autistic people and their families within the UK. It's the National Autistic Society campaign. It's the local leading charity here in the UK for autistic people and their families. So I'm going to scan down and read what it says. And it says the executive summary of the report. The coronavirus pandemic is an unprecedented challenge for individuals, communities and governments across the UK. In response, each government has had to make quick, hard decisions and set up new reviews and organisations. We need to learn from what has happened and its impact on autistic people and their family, and make sure they aren't even left stranded in this way ever again. Compared to the general public, people with autism in June and July were 7 times more likely to be chronically lonely, 6 times more likely to have low life satisfaction. Those requiring support all of the time are significantly more affected by the lockdown. 9 out of 10 autistic people were worried about their mental health. 1 in 5 family members had to reduce work due to having caring responsibilities. 7 in 10 parents said that their child had difficulty understanding or completing schoolwork, and around half said their children's academic progress had suffered. So I'm going to keep going down. Introduction to the Left Stranded report. The coronavirus outbreak has impacted everyone's life, but for autistic people such as myself and their families, it has left them completely stranded. This report highlights the often devastating impact that this has had. Many went months without seeing their friends and family. Many of us know firsthand just how hard this was. For others, support from public services disappeared overnight, leading to an impossible pressure on families and many feeling totally abandoned. Overall, autistic people's mental health has suffered, leaving too many at serious risks of falling into crisis. So, methodology. Between June and July 2020, we ran an online survey for autistic people and their families across the UK. Tell us about their experiences of coronavirus and lockdown. We received 4,232 responses, 1,810 from autistic people and 2,422 from family members. Throughout this pandemic, we also asked people to email us with their experiences. This research was run in partnership with Mind as part of a project kindly funded by the Pears Foundation. The inequalities that autistic people and their families face aren't new. We've been highlighting this for years, but coronavirus has laid them bare and deepened them. In case of another wave or further local or national lockdowns, all governments in the UK must take urgent action to make sure the needs of autistic people and their families are better met next time. As we rebuild the society, governments need to look beyond the immediate effects of coronavirus and invest in the understanding, research, support and services autistic people need. Only then will we create a society that truly works for autistic people and their families. So I'm going to just scan down a little bit more. Basically it says that the coronavirus pandemic has been a time of intense pressure and uncertainty for many autistic people across the UK. Communities and policymakers have had to adapt to a rapidly changing situation and make difficult decisions to protect people. Although these decisions have impacted everyone's lives, they have disproportionately impacted autistic people and their family. The rapid withdrawal of mental health, social care and educational services spelled disaster for many autistic children, adults and their families, and has led to a nosedive in their mental health well-being. Our survey has found that compared to a general public, autistic people were 7 times more likely to be chronically lonely during June and July and 6 times more likely to have low life satisfaction. The scale of this inequality has not yet been matched by a serious public policy response. Significant and long-term investment in national and local programs and support to change will increase people outcomes is needed. And it says also, most unfairly, our survey has also shown that the most complex the needs of autistic people and the more support they need, the worse their anxiety and moods, and the less likely they were to receive the information and advice they needed during this pandemic. A second spike and further wave of destruction cannot be ruled out. The situation faced by autistic people in terms of mental health, outcomes, care and support provision, education and public understanding was already reaching a crisis point. The experience of autistic people during lockdown and the threat of a second spike makes the need for action now more than urgent than ever before. All four governments are being called upon to prevent more distress and uncertainty for autistic people by creating an action plan covering social care, health, education, transport and shops in case of a second wave. This plan should specifically set out how the government will avoid using the powers in the Coronavirus Act of 2020 that led to public services being withdrawn so sharply during the height of the lockdown. The Scottish Government is developing a transition and transformation plan, and we welcome this approach to ensuring that the experience of autistic people can be improved in the future. Autistic people such as myself need to be a priority in future policy making across the UK as we rebuild the economy and society. This should be on two levels. There needs to be sufficient cross-government focus and investment in specific autism policy and support, for example, the future autism strategies within England and Northern Ireland and the proposed code of practice in Wales. Every government department needs to make sure that this plan will reduce its inequalities to autistic children, adults and their families. Equally as important, future reform within mental health, education and social care must have autistic people's needs at the centre. They have suffered acutely because of failings within these systems during this current pandemic. It is time to make public services finally work for autistic people. And basically, I'm going to go through a little bit more of this and then I'll link the article down below in my video description so you can see. It says mental health and loneliness. Autism is not a mental health condition, but many autistic people develop mental health problems. This is often avoidable, but the lack of support can mean preventable issues then get worse. Mental health problems start young and need addressing early. Research has shown that more than 80% of autistic people have experienced mental health problems before the pandemic. The response was far from ideal according to the APBGA report. The APBGA is the Autism Parliamentary Party Group on Autism. Reports 76 of autistic people in England have reached out for mental health support, but even when that support was given, 82% of autistic people said the process getting it or receiving it was too long. Research suggests that 66% had thought about taking their own life. That's absolutely shocking. That's absolutely unbelievable. Like, wow. That's just really sad. As someone on the spectrum myself, that's actually quite worrying. Coronavirus has made the situation considerably worse. Our new findings show that 9 out of 10 autistic people have worried about their mental health during lockdown. Compared to the general public, autistic people were 7 times more likely to be chronically lonely, and this seems to have knocked on to have low life satisfaction. It is clear that coronavirus is placing additional pressure within the mental health of autistic people, making them vulnerable. While some support has been available online or on the phone, it has been far from vital for many. For some autistic people, it simply isn't accessible and doesn't work. It's vital that this research is conducted to understand what digital or online support works for autistic people and what the barriers still are, which I totally agree with it. Without access to personalised evidence, community-based mental health services such as an autism-adapted counselling or low-level psychological therapies, autistic people's mental health issues can quickly deteriorate. A second wave of this pandemic would tip more autistic people such as me into total crisis. Lockdown has upended the lives of everyone in the UK, but it's undermined the essential ways many autistic people cope with their daily life through routine, structure, exercise and time with friends or family. Without additional support, autistic people can find it more challenging to readjust. Periods of crisis are all too common among autistic people who cannot get their necessary support. So I'm going to scan down and see what this says. Care and support. For many autistic people, social care is the difference between being able to leave the house and not being able to wash, dress, eat, or not work. It is a difference between high life satisfaction and low life satisfaction. Prior to this coronavirus outbreak, the provision of basic care for autistic people was already dangerously low. But the virus has reduced care provision further, leaving many parents and carers feeling totally abandoned. Some autistic people will go through life needing very little support, whilst others will need a lifetime of round-the-clock care. Our survey found that those requiring support all of the time were significantly more affected by lockdown than those only needing a little bit of support. In particular, them and their families were more likely to have without adequate information and advice on how to manage in lockdown. Many of these in residential care have gone months without seeing loved ones due to a lack of guidance. As someone like me, as my needs increase and autistic people's needs increase, according to the responses we gather from parents and family members, those with relatives who require more support are twice as likely in every case to worry about friends or family members contracting coronavirus, not getting the support they needed, what would happen when lockdown ended their mental health and social distancing, than those who required little support. This has also had a profound effect on the well-being of autistic people, as according to the families of autistic people in our survey, over half of those who require support all the time reported constant high levels of anxiety and changes in mood and behaviour. Similarly, life satisfaction ratings also decreased significantly. So I'm going to scan down a little bit more. Coronavirus has placed an additional strain on autistic people, the available social care services, and in particular on the families of autistic people, as they are often relied upon when no other options are available. Social care services are far stretched, and funding has been cut over many years, nor has enough research been carried out about what support works best. Experts have warned that a $3.5 billion funding gap will exist by 2024-2025 if action is not now taken. Families are having to fill this gap. 1 in 5 family members responding to our survey had to reduce their work due to caring responsibilities, reducing their household income and overall ability to provide. If the government of all 4 of the UK nations do not deliver for autistic people now, there is a serious risk that in a second wave, existing unmet care needs could become an insurmountable challenge for autistic people and their families. So this is just a little bit of a snapshot of the report, what they're saying. So what I'll do is I'll end this vlog here. I hope you've enjoyed hearing some of the detail about the report. As from my own perspective, I think this is a brilliant report. It's something that needs to be shared not just in the UK but across the world. I know that the National Autistic Society can't stretch that far, but for me this is a really good step forward. It's something that shows that they're including us, they're making sure our needs are met during lockdown and the challenges that we face during lockdown for our mental health, such as anxiety, our psychological needs. So I'll link the description website down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.